We're talking about Silicon Valley Bank's bank run on Friday. We're also talking about Signature on Sunday. They shuttered they're a huge player in the crypto space, as I'm sure you're very aware, and the regulators shuttered it. They were concerned about the stability of our financial system if the bank stayed open, which obviously is unsettling.
Yeah.
The good news
29, right? Number
yeah,
29,
exactly.
And the top 3 banks that ever failed in the US. Like
2 in the last 3 days, right? So it's not helping the already, I think, fragile state of confidence of the participants in the crypto space. Everybody was pretty shook up after FTX and everything that's kind of fallen out since then. And it's one in a long list of sort of major regulatory events that we've seen in the last little while. Who knows if it's over? I don't suspect it's over. We can talk about our regulators and their approach to regulating cryptocurrency and blockchain in the US, if that's something we want to get into. But, I think everybody is a little bit concerned, even though, we're Tuesday the 14th now, and it seems that, we've since learned that there are protections that are extended to the depositors at SVB and at Signature, so everybody can more or less access their funds. I think a few of the big things we've learned is, so the FDIC is here to somewhat save the day. They insure different types of deposits up to a limit of $250,000. So, I think we've all recognized in the wake of these 2 bank runs, perhaps $250,000 needs to be upped again. It's a great protection that exists, but given sort of some of the thresholds for opening accounts at certain of these banks, it seems like $250,000 might not be appropriate given the rates of inflation, particularly in the last couple of months and years. But many of our deposits, we've learned over the weekend in this sort of madness of information exchanging, are insured up to that $250,000 limit. If it didn't turn out the way it turned out, and there were certain accounts, like accounts that opened in international branches or with certain custodial arrangements that aren't covered by that $250,000 limit, or that are covered but exceed that $250,000 amount, uninsured deposits and other obligations, of a bank that's in receivership, they're going to remain obligations of the receivership estate. So that means that all that money above the $250,000 limit or uninsured deposits, those get paid out only if and only when there are funds available from the sale of that bank's assets that can satisfy those obligations. So if it went a little bit differently, a lot of people would have been up a creek without a paddle and missing a lot of their funds, at least for the short term and likely for the longer term as well. So how do you protect yourself now? Because maybe it won't always end this way. Obviously, I'm a lawyer and will say, talk to your lawyer. It doesn't need to be me or any of my partners, but talk to a lawyer. Talk to your financial advisors, talk to people who really sort of understand how FDIC insurance works, gain an appreciation for that, understand which of your accounts are covered. You mentioned opening accounts in different banks, obviously an option. Does that mean you should open a bunch of accounts up to $250,000 all over the country? Maybe, maybe not. FDIC insures different types of, accounts. You can, depending on the type of account, open multiple accounts at the same bank, and each one of those accounts would be FDIC insured up to $250,000. Or in some instances, you can add beneficiaries where each one of those beneficiaries is insured up to $250,000. So that's another way you can think about solving around this $250,000 cap in insurance. I sort of zooming out the bigger picture, a really clear and thoughtful investment strategy for companies is obviously really important, and now more important than ever. You want to really be thoughtful about how you're investing your funds, where you're keeping them, where you're trading them, who has control of those funds under the various account agreements that you enter into. And also really make sure that your director and officer insurance is up to date. Make sure everybody's covered. Make sure your company is properly covered, because obviously, if it gets to the point where you need to, not need to, but aren't able to pay your employees or have to silo employees, unpaid salaries to employees can, depending on the state, obviously, because every state's employment laws are different, can end up, the problem of the directors and officers, and not just the company being liable. So I'm not an employment lawyer. I'm a corporate and M&A employer, but those are just some of the things that are sort of floating around in the last couple of days and the fallout of the bank runs that we've just gone through, in some ways you can think about protecting yourself a little bit better. But my first and best suggestion is talk to your financial advisors and your lawyers.